Hello everyone, this is Pennsylvania and Florida Eastern back again with another DCC Install Series. And in this installment, as you can see, I already have my T1 number 5520 as an as-built by Broadway Limited Imports. This is a Paragon 3 model. And inside the locomotive we have this board right here that's on top of the motor. And that motor has two drive shafts, one going to the forward stalk and the other one going to the rear stalk near the back of the locomotive. And really just taking a look, it's really unique, this model. It's really, different compared to other models, and I know I've said this before, but this model is definitely similar, in my opinion, to like diesels and pretty much like a mix between the K4 by Broadway and probably a diesel locomotive. So without any further ado, we'll go to the next scene where I'll have more stuff put apart and I'll explain to you what's going on in the next scene. Alright, so I have the tender open as well right in here. And as you can see, we got a Paragon 3 Revision E board. It's a HO300E board, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. It usually has a small little silver capacitor like that on one side. And these boards are the crux of why Paragon 3 pretty much generally sucks. In my opinion, I don't really like Paragon all that much. I don't really like Broadway's little experiment. So this is what it looks like inside a tender. It's really easy to take the tender off. You just basically put your fingers on each side under the chassis of the shell, and you just spread it open, and then you put your finger at the front of the tender, and then you pull up and it will come out. You have to wiggle it out a bit, back and forth, and you should be able to get the shell off, and you'll have right here where this board is. So in the next scene, we're going to look more on the locomotive and then further back on this one. Alrighty, back at the locomotive. As you can see, I'm going to be unsoldering the wires from the motor plus and motor minus. I did unplug pretty much all the tethers and the JST plugs, because really I'm going to get rid of this board. I do not really need it anymore, and it's kind of a bit complicated to understand on this board. I mean, you could if you want to, it's just you got to keep flipping over the board a lot. That goes over the motor. So I'm probably going to just do a regular hardwire job that I did on my H10S locomotive. Okay, so I got the shell off, and to get the shell off, you need to pretty much take off the covers for each of the gear towers, and then you're going to take the worm gears out. And I've already done that, so that now the motor is still pretty much mated with the lower frame of the shell. So now I can see clearly where all the wires are going, and I can start doing, as you can see down below in the right corner, you see a gray wire no longer connected. That's right rail. Right rail is going to be resoldered with that wire that's going towards near the motor and the back side. I'm going to resolder those together so I can get right rail done. And then I'll do left rail, which actually left rail is already like pretty much grounded. So there's no really wire for that. You don't have to really mess with any wires in a locomotive for left rail. And then next I'll be doing motor minus, motor plus, and then I'll start getting into more of the lighting functions. Alrighty, inside the tender I have pretty much the right rail to go to right rail. Both of those gray wires right there. Or actually it's really that one wire. So I got right rail to go on the first wire that, going towards the locomotive to the left. The rightmost wire is going to be your right rail. Same thing with the left rail. It being on the 8th pin that's closest to us, the viewer. And yeah, it's really, I'm going to work on this later. I'm just really showing you, the first steps on how to do this. It's pretty much standard on all Broadway models that you're going to want to do the JST wiring format for. It's basically, first wire, right rail, second wire, motor minus on this locomotive. Wire 3 is 3.3 volt. That's where all your lighting functions are going to come in. And then wire number 4, from what I understand, can be like, it could be a ground for marker lights or cab light. And then for pin 5, it's the ground wire for your headlights. So you're going to want to use if you want to keep it consistent, you can do that. You can always do it your own way, but when you're hardwiring, to make sure that each wire goes to the exact pin near the back of the locomotive, you have to do it that way. Just to let you guys know that for now on, when you do any model that's Broadway. Pin 6 is one of those wires that you can use again for another grounding lighting function as well for the locomotive. That could be for marked firebox flicker if you want to. And then pin 7 is your motor plus, and then obviously pin 8 is your left rail. Okay, as you can see, I have motor minus already hooked up to pin number 2. It's going right back into the cab. I have pretty much the shell back on. Not really the shell, but the major frame shell where the motor's connected to. And then right now I have pin number 3 with the going to the headlight. And it's also going to be, as you can see, that blue tape that's inside the plastic boiler shell. That's where the marker lights on this as-built model have. They have 2 little LEDs in there, so I have to make sure that they're still in series, which I did in the testing phase. I pretty much found that there was certain stuff not working. But once I got that fixed, make sure that you know which one is plus or minus. If not, just put your own LEDs in there, which I'll probably do at a later point if I want to have green marker lights. Okay, back to the tender now. As you can see, I have some wires twined so that I can do right rail and it can go to the decoder. So I have the right rail with the right pin, and then the left pin on the pretty much the JST plug, the furthermost left, is connected to the black wire, which will then go all the way to the decoder. As you can see, the orange wire that's connected to that wire is going to the 7th pin. The 7th pin that's on the left side of the JST plug that connects to the locomotive. And you have, as you can see, I have the gray wire that's coming from the decoder for the JST is going to the 2nd pin, that's the motor minus, and then I have right rail, which is the red wire, twined with the gray wire, which is pretty much the right rail of the Ford truck on the tender that will connect to the 1st pin for the JST to go to the locomotive for right rail pickup. Alrighty, so this seems a little bit early now, does it? So we're going to put the locomotive pretty much back together and closed up again. I installed a Firebox flicker with 2 red LEDs. They're in series with each other, and I used pins 4 and 6 to be the positive, a second 3.3 voltage input from the blue wire that connects to the Keep Alive. I'm going to splice that, and I'm going to resolder it after a 1K ohm resistor so that will then travel to the locomotive. And for some reason, I don't understand why the Firebox flicker doesn't just work with the regular, soldering of the wire to the other wires that are for like pin number 3 on the JST plug from the tender. So it's really strange that it just doesn't work for some reason. So I decided, after using the other voltage plus, I can use that as for like function number 3, which is a brown, or function number 4 as a pink wire. So that's how I'm going to probably get the Firebox flicker to work at that point, using that method. And it has worked on all my other engines that I have done Firebox flicker for. Okay, and here we are right at the end. As you can see, there's 2 resistors. One is 1K ohm for the main lights, and the other one is connected to the Keep Alive so it can do the Firebox flickering effect for the rear. As you can see, the final wire that's on with my clamps is the green wire for function 1 to do the Firebox flicker. So that will be coming off of pin 6. And then in the next scene, we will go on the test bench at my local railroad club, which I know, right? We're not at my house anymore. And then we're going to do a nice test with the locomotive and see how she goes. Okay, so now that I have the locomotive on the test layout, at my railroad club, and we're going to test and see how she runs. So we have to use the NCE power cab and see how everything works. I got hear sound, and I see light in the firebox, which is cool. So we do have some firebox glow. I'll have to take this locomotive home to properly program the firebox flicker. But yeah, this looks pretty good. I don't have the LEDs too far back, so take it as you will, but I think it's fine the way it is. It doesn't need to be all the way back. But I can always open up this engine, and if I want to adjust it, I can. So, we're going to turn on the headlight. Headlight works. Marker lights are nice and bright. I really like that. Now, the headlight's kind of blue, which is, it's alright. It's not too bad. I actually like it. It looks really modern. On my railroad, these T1s were kept in the service, but it looks alright. I think it's fine. They are white, but a little bit blue, but that's okay. Marker lights all work with the headlight, so even the number boards are lit too, so that's pretty cool. I have to change the whistle. It's not the whistle that I want. And we got a firebox flicker in the T1. This is the first T1 that I actually have a firebox flicker in. I'm not sure about 5511. I don't think I'm going to do it for that one because it doesn't have an 8-pin like this Paragon 3 does. However, since I now worked on a T1, I'll probably do... I donated a 5548 to the club, so I'll probably do something with that engine and do the same thing where I have the firebox flicker on there. The tender, as we can see when we change direction, has a nice bright headlight. It's not the brightest thing in the world, but it does light up. I just wish it was a little bit brighter. But I could always change that if I want. There are not working marker lights. They're molded in. So at some point I might see if I can have a Dremel tool here that's small enough that can drill small holes in there. And then add rear marker lights. And I didn't trim all the wires for the TCS decoder kit, so I can probably sync another 2 red lights in in series, and I'll mount them up inside the corners, inside that tender, and have a black tape cover them so they don't bleed light back into the tender and possibly through the shell. So that would be really cool. I definitely want to do that at some point for both my T1s. I think my other T1 can do something like that too if not all the wires are trimmed. If anything, I can always redo the wiring on that engine. But yeah, we could do some test runs and see how it runs. I'm going to put the speed step 1 in reverse. Runs really well. Nothing's binding in there. I'm going to go forward. Have a blow down. Get some of that water out of the cylinders. We got the iconic belt. So this is the decoder that I used to have in 6195, one of my Q2s. So I just took that decoder because it wasn't the version 4 decoder, and I put that in this one. And man, this engine's beautiful, and I love the TCS sounds. So in the next segment, as the final segment, I'm going to have the locomotive running on the club layout. And we're going to do some laps on there to see how well she runs. So there'll be a couple more clips at the end of this one. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video on this T1 TCS WOW install. It's unique. It definitely is unique. It's similar, in my opinion, to the K4s that Broadway has done over the years. They have that weird thing going on. In terms of complexity, it's not that bad. This is not that bad. And yeah, some light's bleeding through there, so I'll probably add some tape later on at some point, but it's not that bad. I'm not really too bothered by it unless I'm really low. So I'll probably fix this brightness at some point so that it doesn't bleed through this plastic shell, and probably tape that up eventually. But yeah, this is a fun one. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this video. I'll see you guys in the next installment. Bye now.